I want to tell the story of a couple of kids, Joan and Sherman Silber, 21 years old and 24 years old, who in 1967 were sent up to Alaska. I was a young doctor in the public health service taking care of the natives, the Eskimos, the Indians, and the Aleuts, and Joan was just a young school teacher. We had never been in the wilderness. I had never seen a sleeping bag or a tent. I had never seen a rifle or a fishing rod or a Coleman stove before in my life. We'd like to just take you out there to what is wilderness today still, so that we don't engulf it, so we don't ruin it, so that we can preserve that beautiful, pristine life that I remember while taking care of my Eskimo, Indian, and Aleut patients, and Joan teaching these young kids in the wilderness who knew only cross-country skiing and living on moose and caribou and whatever they grew during the short but incredibly fruitful summer growing season, living off the land the way it used to be. We're going to start our story by taking you to the beautiful modern Fred Meyer grocery store in August 2009, where Joan is shopping for provisions for our trip into what is still the wilderness of Alaska. This store, which now makes it so convenient for us to prepare for going into the wilderness, but which also represents a symbol of a threat to the destruction of this beautiful way of life that we've known for 42 years. Well, how does it feel, Joan, 42 years later?
It feels more civilized and suburban around Anchorage, so that's why I can't wait to get out to Mulchatna Lodge, where there's no roads and no people and no grocery stores anywhere. We're at the Arctic Roadrunner in Anchorage, Alaska. We used to go to the original Arctic Roadrunner, which was like a drive-through. First fast food hamburger place in all of Alaska, probably, certainly in Anchorage, 1967. And we have actually they put up pictures here of the old-timers, people who've been here that long, and our photo is right here. Dr. and Mrs. Sherman Silber from Missouri and from Alaska. Come to Alaska at the age of 24. Well, I think I was in bologna, salami, ham, American mozzarella cheese, onion.
No longer caribou, moose, sheep, and goat.
No more caribou, moose, sheep, or anything like that. I don't, whatever. But I remember there was definitely you could actually get a moose burger here.
My name is Wilmer W. Wilson III, 2943, famous guide and pilot and water person, having baptized Joan in the ocean and Sherman in the river, trying to baptize the children several times, but they all escaped. Long friendship, good friends are hard to find, and long-term good friends are impossible to find. So, here's to good friends. Brought back the old days of hand-propping that plane, and Sherman and I going out and catching fish and shooting bear and caribou and all that stuff with that. It was a great plane. Skis and floats and wheels and bears and fox and moose and caribou and anything that walked was in danger from the little yellow plane swooping from the sky to dismember its life. Sherman's first hunt, it was Sherman got this caribou. Sherman was just beside himself, and he lifted up, cut the horns off. He lifted up the horns. The blood is dripping down his head and on his face, and he's dancing madly. I think he had his clothes on, but he secretly wanted to take all his clothes off and dance with this bloody head above his. It was disgusting.
So where were you born?
Well, my family's been in Alaska since 1922.
Yeah. Didn't your dad come from New York and pioneer the fur industry here? Or?
He came to New York and read Jack London, decided that Alaska was the place for him and talked his cousin into coming to Alaska, but he short-stopped and stayed in Seattle, and my father came north.
Oh, I see. Okay. And I remember 42 years ago, you were going up to all the villages and trading furs and...
I was trading furs and ivory and having a wonderful time, and then the government came in and socialized everything and ruined the natives and pretty much is ruining Alaska with all these people who came up from California to try and make it just like they ruined California.
I have a real memory of you and me going out there with our heavy coats on Lake Clark, and we must the wind was blowing and raining some.
This is the little girl that I made, so I want to interview her.
Okay.
How long ago was that you were born?
Huh?
How long ago was that you were born?
23 years.
Wow.
June 26, 1986.
Isn't that something? You were such a cute little embryo.
All right, this is the small version of Big Red, famous 185 I used to have. This is a Super Cub, and it's about 55 years old.
Wow. Whoa, it started. Out on this sandbar here on the Sioux, and there is the amazing pilot. We're in the middle of nowhere. Bud Wilson.
We are actually in the middle of nowhere. It seems like, you know, can't see anything, any place around us. Pretty good flat place. Sometimes you got to be careful landing these things. You get a little swale or something that you can't see very well from the air and messes up your landing gear. But no swales today, no logs, just smooth sand.
Pretty smooth, and it's kind of neat to just land not in the airport like you were saying, but just out in the middle of nowhere. It's kind of fun.
Out in the middle of nowhere. Don't have to worry about calling the tower.
Well, as your co-pilot,
What about
I'm
the
just
coffee?
excited. I've flown with Glenn for so many hours, and this is what hour? 27,000?
It's about 27,780 maybe.
Fantastic. We fly in this relatively luxurious twin Navajo, which we certainly didn't have 42 years ago, through one of the most treacherous passes of Alaska, 200 miles from the nearest road, from Anchorage west directly, right to Lake Clark, to this incredible lake in the middle of the largest national park in the entire country, the most beautiful wilderness, with glaciers on every side. And finally we open out from the pass into this incredible turquoise lake, pass by the mouth of the Keejic River where our lodge is located, and set down at Port Allsworth, which is across the lake from the lodge. Port Allsworth being the most well-sheltered place in this entire wilderness.
And this is the port, the little protected area of Port Allsworth, where they can get some protection from the wind and doesn't kick up so much as on the big lake. You can see the satellite over there. We've got satellite communication over here at Port Allsworth.
Quite a bit different from when we were first here, huh?
Yep, when we were here there was none of this. See the big satellite there?
They got their own farm. They're totally self-sufficient with their own veggies. How long have you been up here, Daddy?
36 years.
Wow. So this is, you're comfortable with Alaska. This is your pioneer. Yeah.
When did you come up here, Glenda?
We came in 1972.
Oh, you're newcomers.
Look at this.
You're all dressed up for dinner, aren't you?
You're growing all these crops all these years?
Oh, I just do the garden now. I
Just
used
the
to
garden
do
now.
maintenance and everything, but now I just pretty well take care of the garden, and that's about
I
it.
saw the cabin that you grew up in as a little boy before they moved to Port Allsworth. It's on the other side of the lake, and it was a pretty humble beginning.
Actually, that cabin was before I was born.
Before you were born. Oh, I see. And your dad came up here when? In 1930? 1939.
He settled right here at this location in 1944. So yeah, a lot of history. It's, my father would have been 100 years old this last April.
It was probably, I had the gun out and ready, and it probably got within about 15 feet of me, and it stood on its hind legs, and it was stretching its jaw and clicking its jaw and huffing at us and stuff. And at that point, it was close enough. I told everybody, okay, if it comes down on its hind legs, if I can't get it to look up at me and turn, then I'm going to have to shoot it.
The bears would learn if a shot was fired, there would be food there soon. And so the bears would actually be attracted to the shooting. They would come because every time they came, there would be food.
And I jumped back and I caught something out of the corner of my eye, and two more bears, the sow and the other cub. It was about like from here to that house, from the chicken house, that wall, they went between me. She was right behind me. She was in my other chicken house eating my letting hens.
Oh, no.
And so all three of these bears all wanted to come up, and they were gone. That was kind of exciting for a minute there.
Our remote lodge, which we could barely afford when we were first kids coming up to Alaska, is one of the great gems of the wilderness, located on fee simple property in the middle of the largest national park and national wilderness area in America. It is an incredible national historic monument, built originally back in 1935 and continually updated with all original indigenous logs. This is one of the masterpieces of living in the wilderness. There is nothing like this anywhere in Alaska. We can't say it's plush, but it's extremely comfortable, and it's the real thing. Now, you were a big city girl, right?
Yes.
And you met Mark, and you spent your first 3 years in a little tiny cabin.
Yep.
Maybe 100, 200 square feet at most.
Yeah, maybe 200. I don't know. It's the it had two rooms. The main room was probably about maybe, I'm going to guess 15 by 15, and the other room was maybe 10 by 10. Just enough to squeeze a double bed and jump in the door.
So it was wall-to-wall bed, and you were not even in Port Allsworth. You were just at the mouth of the Kijik.
And we didn't have any vehicles, so the first winter we bought ice skates, and when we wanted to go over to Port Allsworth, we ice skated.
Oh my gosh.
And that was, I think, about 10 miles.
Oh my gosh. You ice skated 10 miles to Port Allsworth, the big city of about 5 families, to get your stuff.
Yeah, and then, of course, a couple years later, we had a dog team, and Mark built a nice sled out of one birch tree.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, did everything by hand, and wrapped it all together with strings that he made out of moose hide, and
you just lived. You ate just the moose and the fish that you caught.
We didn't get very much stuff out. Like in my entire life, I had never had a can of spinach. But I was like just needing green, so one time I bought, canned spinach, and you actually learn to like it because it's green. I'm eating green.
I had come to Alaska looking for my sister who happened to be here, and I managed to come up with a phone number to get in contact with her, and it happened to be Dan Rohde's phone number because he was running the lodge at the time. And I was, looking for adventures.
And you were just totally green, right? I mean,
yeah. I mean, aside from I lived in Colorado, we hunted, I worked on a ranch and a farm. I mean, so I knew some stuff. But yeah, very young. So, anyways, here we are.
Isn't that, it's just fantastic.
Yeah, I got so much junk I can't leave if I wanted to.
Well, it's because you know how to fix it all.
What is it that you like the most about being in Alaska?
Nice and cold.
Cold. You like the cold?
I like the cold.
Back in Pennsylvania sometimes. Like it's like 90 degrees.
It's going to be the right between the Mulchatna and Nushagak rivers.
Oh, fantastic.
The hills up there, yeah.
Oh, so that's the old Mulchatna herd, maybe.
It's probably a remnant of it, yeah.
Yeah,
so,
fantastic.
Or either that or maybe it's coming back. That'll be better.
It's windy and it feels like Alaska. It's fall, it's beginning of fall, you can see the tundra colors turning. We just flew over a small group of about, we're guessing 30 caribou. We haven't seen caribou up here in years. It's so exciting. We're about 60 miles from the lodge and near the Mulchatna River. And we actually saw caribou. It was really exciting.
It's thrilling. For thousands of years, Eskimos would tell stories about their fear of the time when the caribou would not return, because all of life depended on the caribou for food and for tools and for clothing and for tents. The caribou were the key to life in the wilderness. And their migration patterns would suddenly change without any clear understanding why. And in fact, this wonderful Mulchatna herd disappeared 10 years ago. And we've all been depressed about it. And finally, we're beginning to see, hopefully, their return. This is nothing like the hundreds of thousands of caribou that we would see before 10 years ago, filling the landscape. But nonetheless, it's the beginning, and it's a sign that life does return if you give it a chance. This little lonely straggler stopped just to try to figure out who we were before he went and joined up again with his herd. There's a special fishing hole almost 100 miles from our lodge, which we have never told anybody about. Very difficult to get to, very tricky to land, but it is an amazing spot, and we are not going to even tell you where it is. We land on this little flat area on a mountaintop where we're greeted by these foxes, and then hike down through some nasty terrain of alders and mud until we finally get to this amazing fishing hole filled with silver, salmon, and Arctic char.
Oh, yeah. Oh, jumped straight at you.
Oh my God, straight at me. This guy is smart. Got a big silver here. Here is my first silver salmon of the year, right here at Secret Fishing Hole. I won't even give it a number. I don't want to give any clue to anyone. but we're just in spectacular country. Of course, we're surrounded by bugs, but every time you catch a fish, the bugs just want to beat you to distraction, and you got to concentrate.
When did I arrive?
How what year?
On Lake Clark, you mean?
Well, Alaska and Lake Clark.
The first time in Alaska, June of 1959.
Oh, you are
10 years later, I came back right after college to teach in Naknek, 1969.
Hi, Bella.
Hi. My belated thanks for that wonderful video you sent.
Oh, we're going to do another one this year.
Are you?
In fact, I'm doing it right now, this second, as we're...
You should go into the business. You do an excellent job.
So, Bella, how long have you been... When were you born here?
I was born in 1932.
And
I've lived in Alaska all of my life.
were you always on Lake Clark area? In this area?
No, in the Bristol Bay area, the Dillingham
Okay.
area.
She sent me an email.
And then you and Jay came up here then? Is that what happened?
Yes, we homesteaded in 52.
Wow.
And have been working on our place ever since.
Now here we have Tish Bowman, who's been out, I don't know, how long have you been out here? How long have you been on the lake? I mean, 40 years?
47 years.
47 years. Oh my God, I remember visiting you at your cabin with your husband Howard, your late husband Howard, and you were carrying a gun everywhere we went. You were protecting us.
That's because of you.
I've been here since July the 10th, 1964.
You remember the exact date?
Yeah.
Wow. So you've actually been in Alaska then, what, for 45 years?
A little over, yeah.
And I always tell everybody you're making more money since you quit work than when you were working.
That's a fact.
We came up here in the 80s, bought the land, built the cabin, totally retired in 98 to live up here. And yeah, we're kind of off the grid.
Your own power, your own plumbing.
Own power, the sun mainly, generator.
I walked out in front of the Anchorage airport, stuck my thumb out. The first truck that went by, it was the first vehicle that went by, picked me up. And he said, "Where are you going?" I go, "Well, I'm going to look for a job." And he said, "Well, what do you know how to do?" I said, "Well, I studied biology in college." He goes, "You should work for Fish and Game. I'll take you over there."
These candles are actually from Sfat, which is a very spiritual place in Israel.
So we're lighting candles from Sfat for Shabbos in the wilderness of Alaska. Don't forget to fasten your seatbelts. You're a brave girl, baby.
I'm a brave girl. If I had the football, that bear would be running.
There is a big brown bear they're tracking. He's sleepy now, but he's a sleeping giant. He's enormous. Although we would never be so foolish as to be so close to these animals without guns for backup, we've never really had to even think about using them. The idea is not to threaten the bears or to let them think in any way that you are a challenge to them. But they are much more interested in the salmon than they are in us. And as long as we show them respect at this time of season, then we have nothing to fear and we can get very close. Look this way, sweetheart. That's better. That's much better. Every Alaskan who has ever been near one of these big, incredible animals is in awe of their power and their grace. They almost seem to be clumsy. They're so big, but they can run faster than a racehorse, and they can just break your neck with one little sweep of their arm. They can live on vegetation, or they can live on fish, Or in the spring they can live on caribou or moose or small little rodents. These are animals that are meant to survive under any conditions in the wilderness except for one, and that's the intrusion of man. So as we share this privilege with you of being so close to these animals as they go on their annual fish hunting spree, we realize that it's important that humankind and our villages and our cities don't encroach on their natural life so that we can actually enjoy watching this incredible force of nature. It is not so easy for bears to catch fish. They actually have to really struggle hard to look in the shallowest area where they can pounce on the fish, and often they miss it. And in fact, they like to do most of their fishing in August when the fish are almost near dying as they're spawning, so that they're too weak to elude the bear's reach. But you can see that despite how fast and cunning these creatures are, it's not so easy to catch a fish. And when they finally do, they really relish it. They love to first strip off the skin. That's where most of the flavor is. And often in this season, they'll even leave a lot of the meat for the seagulls because there's just so many fish available. But at some point, eventually, all of that fish will be consumed, either by the bear or by the seagulls, or as it turns to organic material in the next season, by the fish fry that emerge from the eggs that the fish managed to lay in the fall. In that way, the dying salmon become the feed for their children, their offspring, so that they can survive and grow up to become big salmon themselves. But some of the salmon don't make it, and they become food for the bears, who then defecate throughout the wilderness, making it like fertilizer throughout the wilderness that allows for plants to grow and for caribou to feed and moose to feed. The salmon coming up to spawn and die, and the bears eating these salmon, and the birds eating the remains of these fish, all are what prevents the Arctic from becoming just a giant desert. We are so close to these bears, we want to make sure you know that this is not telephoto. This is real life. And we know that we don't have to fear, because at this particular season, at this particular moment, those bears are looking for salmon, and humans, as long as we don't challenge them, are no distraction, and they don't want to be bothered by us. They just concentrate on what they're there for in August, and that is to fill themselves up with enough salmon to last them through hibernation. We've actually hiked up and down these streams for many years while the bears are cavorting looking for fish. We know these bears so well, and we know this area so well, that despite the fact that we carry guns just for backup safety, we've never had an incident. We got a silver on. I think it was the second or third cast.
Got you on the one side and the river. Oh, we got that. Yeah, I can do that. We got it.
And big fish with beautiful spawning colors.
Yeah, he's a good big fish, all right.
These incredible spawning colors, huh? gosh. Oh my gosh, this is spectacular. I've never seen the moon there.
Black bear. Oh, there he goes. Look, he's just chilling.
Oh man. Between the moon and there's a double reflection of the moon on the lake.
The moon's not going anywhere, but the bear might.
The moon is going somewhere. Look at that triple reflection of the moon.
He's just scouting around. He can't hear us. It's flat calm.
Yeah, but I think he'll hear us just about the time he opens the lid of the barbecue.
What's pretty cool.
For something, and
It's funny how they just end up out in the middle of that beach, and then they just kind of come one way or the other. They always pop out right in the middle of that beach for some reason.
Huh.
Well, because they walk across that meadow back there. See, he looked right
Oh,
at us.
he
Did you
just
see
picked
that?
something up. He's got something in his mouth.
It was getting pretty dark as this black bear approached right up to our lawn, no more than 10 feet away from the porch. And finally, Sharon came to the rescue and scared it away. So we sit on the porch watching the moon travel across the sky before going down, drinking Mark's fantastic home brew, and having another miraculous Alaskan evening, getting ready for another miraculous Alaskan day. You've had a chance to reminisce with us and just to see this year what's still there. You saw the most amazing Mirror Lake views of the moon rising over the Tenalian Mountains. You saw silver salmon jumping, showing their excitement as they're about to reproduce and die in the process. You saw eagles diving for fish. You saw bears roaming around, cavorting around within 5 to 10 feet of us without us having any fear. You saw some amazing scenes of foxes and caribou returning to the land they had left. You got to see our very, very special refuge in the wilderness with our sourdough friends that live off the land, that don't need to plug into a city generator or a city sewer system or city plumbing system. All of us just living off the bounty of a rich, undisturbed wilderness. Please, let's not allow that wilderness to be destroyed.